hide non-video participants. I can click on that.
Okay, I got it. I got it.
Okay,
So,
Dr. Fuhrman.
yeah, we're okay. Looks like I'm recording, Brian. I don't know. Okay, this is a crazy, crazy morning. We're going to make it through. Right, Dr. Fuhrman?
5959.
I got the expert with me.
Here's Lillian.
Welcome back to the Lillian McDermott radio show, where we always learn and grow together. Today, we've had some technical difficulties, glitches, and all that, but none of that matters because Dr. Joel Fuhrman is in the house, and he's going to teach us how to take care of our bodies so that we can achieve nutritional excellence. What are you willing to do to achieve nutritional excellence? It's like that song by Meatloaf, I would do anything for nutritional excellence, but I won't do that. No. What are you willing to do today? So Dr. Joel Fuhrman is going to teach us about the bacteria. We're going to teach us about the microbiome, and we're giving away a free gift. I just found out about this. I have to talk to Ashley about it because she did not tell me. So we're giving away, Dr. Fuhrman, you say what we're giving away.
It's a beautiful book, magazine-like book. It's called 100 Best Foods for Health and Longevity. People love this beautiful book with pictures and interesting information about all the foods and why they're so good for you. And also some recipes, how to make them. So it's a nice little, it's a nice book magazine because it's big like a magazine called 100 Best Foods for Health and Longevity.
Awesome. Well, you know, Dr. Fuhrman, I don't have that book. I was just sharing with you this morning. I have your books everywhere around the house so that when our guests come over, they have an opportunity to read them. But that one I don't have. So I think I'm calling in for myself because I want a book. Okay, so Dr. Fuhrman, let's talk about the microbiome. And maybe we should start with bacteria. I remember I attended a conference that the first time I ever met you in Tampa, and you invited someone to talk about bacteria and good bacteria versus bad bacteria. I don't know if you remember, the gentleman was talking about the bad neighborhood versus the good neighborhood. And I thought that was a great analogy that all of us can hang on to. And perhaps maybe you can share if I caught you off guard here. I don't know if you remember that story.
Well, that story is when we're giving a lecture to an audience, we ask the audience, how many people have been stabbed by a knife? And 1 or 2 people out of 100 raise their hand. How many people have been shot by a bullet? And 1 person raised their hand. Or how about a family member who've been shot by a bullet or stabbed by a knife? And maybe 1 or 2 people raise their hand. And then you say, how many people, yourself or your family members, have had heart attacks, strokes, cancer, or dementia? And the whole audience puts their hands up.
Yeah.
So that's a neighborhood we have to get out of.
That's right.
Neighborhood, because that's a dangerous neighborhood you're living in. And we have, our fears are all based on the wrong things. We're afraid about things, the risk of happening are 1 in a million, like being eaten by a shark or something. But the real things that are killing everybody all around us are due to what's at the end of our knife and fork. And we see no problem with committing suicide by putting, bagels and pizza and croissants and donuts in our mouth, and drinking soda and eating burgers or French and fried foods. Because the people want to ignore the facts that the scientific studies are overwhelmingly indicative that even moderate consumption of these foods impact your life negatively. Well, for example, 1 serving of commercial French fries a week, just 1 week, increases risk of breast cancer by 26%. Just 2 servings of commercial bakers or fast food a week. That means 1 serving of French fries and 1 bagel, or 1 cookie and 1 piece of pizza. 2 servings a week can double your risk of developing depression. And it goes up from there in a dose-dependent manner. And now the number 1 source of drugs in this country, drug use, are either opiates, anxiety drugs, and antidepressants. Things that affect the brain. We have a nation that are addicted to stimulating because they're stimulated with food and their brain has been dummied down so they can't logically make good choices and think straight and be creative and solve the problems in their life because they're being driven by stimulating the brain with stimulating foods or drugs or alcohol. It's either drugs, alcohol, or foods that are absorbed very rapidly in the bloodstream. We're affecting our brain so we can't function without these high doses of stimulants, either food or drug. And it's affecting it's affecting the majority of Americans right now.
Yeah. And are you saying that many of these conditions are produced because of the bacteria is making demand onto the brain that's causing the addiction or whatever? Let's talk about this neighborhood that we need to get out of, which has to do with the bad bacteria moving into our neighborhood of our gut. And I think that that was the original analogy that you were talking about today. And so let's talk about how we get these bad bacteria to move into our gut, which is our neighborhood.
You know, and this is the fallacy, is people think their health is determined by what bacteria they can eat, like the lactobacilli or acidophilus in yogurt,
Yes.
or by eating fermented foods like kimchi or sauerkraut, or if they can take probiotics. And really, that's almost nothing to do with the bacteria of your gut, what you take or what you, it's the actual foods you eat on a regular basis and how much fiber the good bacteria have to live on. So it's eating a diet that continually is putting, that bacteria can live off the fiber, particularly off the resistant starch that's in vegetables and beans, because they're called resistant starches because they're resistant to enzymatic degradation. So they undergo bacterial fermentation. And in the process of bacterial fermentation, then they're feeding the growth of the good bacteria. And the growth of the good bacteria that feed off those plant fibers and resistant starch, and the sterols and stanols in nuts and seeds also make the bacteria that live there want to stay there and adhere to the villi more. They stick on the villi in a nicer and thicker coat. Mm-hmm. When you take an acidophilus or you take some probiotics, it mostly travels through you and goes out in the toilet. But when you're eating these four particular foods, the four foods we're talking about, 2 raw foods and 2 cooked foods, when we eat these foods on a daily basis, then the bacteria we develop are much more favorable and have more powerful anti-diabetic effects, more brain protective effects, and they make us thin. They help keep us thin because these healthy bacteria actually chew up more energy by themselves, burning calories in the gut. Whereas when you're eating a high-fat diet or a diet with more meats and sugars, and you produce more a bacteria called Firmicutes, then you have, they promote fat storage. They increase energy utilization because you absorb energy and sugar more readily, whereas the bacteria you develop, the Bacteroides and the Prevotella we develop when we eat onions and beans and green vegetables, actually slow the absorption of glucose and lower the risk of both overweight and diabetes. So what I'm saying essentially is I'm not agreeing with those people that making the microbiome and the bacteria everything in our health. They're the major determinant of our health. Because the same foods that raise insulin, which hurts the brain and causes fat growth, the same foods which cause TMAO, trimethylmine oxide, which is an inflammatory ingredient that inflames the wall of the blood vessels and promotes atherosclerosis and dementia, is caused by eating meat and eating a high-protein diet. Just because the same foods that promote, these dangerous hormones and dangerous toxins also promote bad bacteria. So it's these foods that are causing the damage. It's not like we're just luck or it's not bad. But what happens is the bacteria is one of the things that happens and contributes to the negativity of these foods that we know already negative.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so you said 2 raw and 2 cooked, because I know that things are I like to make it simple for people to grab a hold of. The 2 raw foods that you're talking about are?
That's right. Where I'm talking right now, the foods that make the bacteria that makes you thin the best, mm-hmm. the bacteria that produces diabetes the best, are called Prevotella. These Prevotella bacteria are fueled by these 2 raw foods. We're talking about raw leafy greens and raw onion and scallion. We're talking about the onion family being particularly promoting these bacteria. And then the 2 cooked foods are beans, well-cooked beans, and mushrooms. So we can pick out these foods that are most powerful at promoting good bacteria that helps us be thin. But also these foods are low in calories, rich in fiber, high in phytochemicals, high in anti-cancer ingredients, and don't promote toxins as well. So these foods have a host of different reasons why they're beneficial besides just the bacterial effects. But, but keep in mind that, of course, that when you build the right bacteria by eating food, then the bacteria takes up, they build a home there in the wall of the gut and they stay there.
Yeah.
When you try to take the bacteria with a probiotic supplement, then it passes through you and most of the bacteria doesn't stay there. In other words, you can't eat a diet high in meat and oil and dairy and bread and flour and expect to take the good bacteria. You're going to add some kimchi or you're going to add some sauerkraut or add some yogurt. It's not going to work.
Not going to do it. It's
overwhelmingly the foods, the bacteria that's going to live there are the foods that degrade the foods you eat. It's more so your diet sets the stage for what bacteria that live in your gut.
Dr. Fuhrman, this reminds me of a question that I received from a listener, a viewer on YouTube. You can go to whenyouneedafriend.com and become a subscriber of my YouTube channel. They said that you talk about onions, but you never mention garlic. Does garlic play a role with these, when it comes to G-bombs? Can we add garlic, raw garlic, because it has a great medicinal value as well as tastes good?
Right.
What is your take on garlic?
My take on it is that even though it's an allium family vegetable, and eating it raw does promote the organosulfide compounds that promote good bacteria and also have health benefits, is that the amount of raw garlic that most people can comfortably eat isn't as it's not easy to eat enough raw garlic to get the same effects as it is easy to put a whole scallion chopped up on your salad or a quarter of an onion chopped up finely.
Got it.
It's easier to get more volume of the other onion families. So you eat one clove of raw garlic here or a half a clove, and that's all you could take. You know what I mean? It's so strongly flavored. So it's okay, but put it all there together. You know, I'm also teaching people how to use leek in their soups, to add leek to their soups. And the way you do it is you take the leek, of course, after cutting off the root and cutting it up the middle and removing the dirt, but you take the whole stem and the whole bulb of the leek, use the whole leek, and you blend it in the blender. Ladle just a little bit liquid in with the leek and blend it and cream it. So it's a leek puree, and then add that leek puree to the soup. It has to be done that way. You can't add the leek whole and then puree it after it's softened because it has to be raw. So the alliinase enzyme is not destroyed, so you form these organosulfide compounds. It's the combination between the fibers and the organosulfide compounds that make these beneficial bacteria explode in your gut.
Yes, you know what? I'm so glad you said that because I just recently added leeks to my garden, and I had so many. I cut them up, and I decided I'm just going to blend them in the blender, like you said, and I added it to my mushroom soup. It was to live for. It was so good. And so, so many little tips that I've learned that they're just in my brain. I'm like, why am I doing this? That's because I've heard Dr. Fuhrman say it. That's why. But so Dr. Fuhrman, my registered service mark is you can take a pill, you can take responsibility. It's not that I'm against the pill, and I've said that before, but I'm for doing everything that will lead us to living a life that's responsible.
Well, I'm against the pills, right? Because you don't get something for nothing.
Yes.
If you're getting some benefit, you're taking a strong risk, and there's toxicity associated with it. And most medicines are carcinogenic and increase risk of cancer.
Yeah, but I was just surprised. I was surprised that you were talking about how it just goes right through you. And I see the countdown is going. And we're going to continue our conversation with Dr. Joel Fuhrman about probiotics versus what? Food. And we're going to continue our conversation when we return worldwide at whenyouneedafriend.com. We'll be right here waiting for you. Well, so far, so good. I haven't lost any internet or any power, so we're good. Dr. Fuhrman, so I just did this. I have 3 big things of leeks that are all organic, and they were just growing wild, and I'm thinking, what am I going to do? And so what I did is I cut them. Now, do you take it from the ground where the root is so that will it continue to grow if you just keep the root in the ground?
I don't know. I don't think so.
Because this is what I did. I bought some organic leeks and I cut them and I used the top part, the green part, and I planted the rest in the ground because it has the roots.
Are they growing?
It is.
Oh, great.
It is growing. And another thing, I did that with my...
How low did you cut it to the ground?
I just where the white part is, and it just kept growing.
Oh,
so
sprouts came out of it.
Yeah, the sprouts came out of it. And so I've been repurposing my organic food because I'm not a gardener like you are. And so I'm hacking it. I'm basically taking organic food already and keeping the roots and planting them into my organic garden. And I'm getting great. I did that with my basil. I used to have this wonderful basil plant, and it died on me. So I've been wanting to get basil. So I took this basil that I got in the store that's organic, non-GMO, and I put it in water, and I got the roots to grow out of the stem, and I replanted it into my garden. Now I have lots of that, and oregano. And
you cloned it.
Is that what it is? I'm cloning?
Yeah.
Well, it's a good argument for cloning. How about that?
You take a piece of the plant, and you just have it'll sprout roots right off a piece of the plant. That's cloning the plants. I do that with fig trees. I cut a piece off the fig tree, put the stem in a little cloning device that spills water around it. I put a little cloning gel in the water, and it sprouts roots, plug it in the ground, and I have another fig tree and give it away as a gift.
Ah, it's a regifting fig tree. Very good. Very
25 fig trees.
Wow. Okay, so I haven't even said the number for Dr. Fuhrman's book, so I will make sure that when I do that, I will do that right away. 407-373. I've been known to forget my own number, 5959. And so the 9th, I'm going to do the 9th because usually I get a lot of calls, but I haven't even given the number today. Okay, so I do want to talk about, you had mentioned on the air, because we're still recording, you have mentioned on the air, Dr. Fuhrman, that yogurt and probiotics just go right through us. So let's talk a little bit about that, because people are using these probiotics, and we'll talk about it on the air. People are using probiotics instead of food. People use metformin and insulin or diabetes medication instead of food. Good food that'll prevent diabetes. And so I'd like to make that compare and contrast so that we can all see, oh man, I'm doing this right now, or I'm not, this is something I can do instead. And so give some tips. But tell me about this 100 best foods for health. I just saw that when I was doing some research.
Want me to get one? Want me to pull one down?
I would love for you to show it off.
Okay.
So while he's gone, my internet has cut off twice. And so with that in mind, it's really difficult. So if you see me switch from phone to internet, we're doing everything possible. Oh, when did you create this, Dr. Fuhrman?
What's that?
When did you create this?
I think it's been out like a month or so, maybe a couple months. You see, if you look at the food, it shows you something about the bok choy, what makes it so special, what are the nutrients in it, a little history about the food, a little bit about, where it came from. Here's one of my favorite foods there is jackfruit.
I love, what?
Nice pictures.
Yes. Did you take those, or did you have somebody take them?
Well, I don't personally take them. It's my wife and my daughter, Janet, does all the photography.
Hey, I saw that you started an Instagram stories. I followed you last night.
Oh,
yeah. You're on stories now. That's pretty cool.
It's nice when I have my children doing this.
That's right. Hey, family affair.
5959. Once again, here's Lillian.
Welcome back to the Lillian McDermott Radio Show, where we always learn and grow with one another. And I teased you guys earlier in the segment. I said, Dr. Fuhrman's giving away 100 best foods for health. It's a beautiful picture book. He just was showing it to me off the air. And you can see the pictures when you go to whenyouneedafriend.com and click on to the YouTube video. All these, today we had some technical difficulties, so you'll see a little choppy. But the 9th caller or texter, 407-373-5959, 9th caller or texter, 407-373-5959. Remember, I don't answer the phone when you call, so just leave a message, and that'll count that. And the 9th caller or texter will win 100 best foods for health. I'm going to call because I want a book, Dr. Fuhrman. And so today, this is where I want to encourage you that if you haven't registered or signed up or subscribed at whenyouneedafriend.com, that you do so now. whenyouneedafriend.com is where we take 100% responsibility. We bottle it up and learn to, at the level wherever we're at, that's where we grow. Many of us believe that our disease is part of our inheritance. It's a genetic, and it is not. Only 3% or less than 3% is because of our DNA. Most of it, what we inherit, is the recipes, the lifestyle, the way you stress. The family taught you all this stuff. So it's time to rewrite the program. And this, whenyouneedafriend.com, this is where we discuss healthy living, mind, body, and spirit. So I want to encourage you to not only subscribe at whenyouneedafriend.com, but then also like me on all my social media, and subscribe to my YouTube channel, my podcast, all of that. When you go to whenyouneedafriend.com, all of that is available just by clicking there. Now, when I ask you that when you go there to please check out my sponsors, because without my sponsors, there would be no show. So check out my sponsors on my sponsorship page and figure out a way that you can support them the way they're supporting the show. Where else can you go for free and learn from Dr. Joel Fuhrman and all the wonderful teachers that we have on the show? This is a classroom, and I hope you guys are all ready, because we're all students today with Dr. Joel Fuhrman. Thank you, Dr. Fuhrman, for being so generous. Every time you come on the show, you bring us so much information. And I am just immensely grateful to you. Thank you.
You're welcome.
So off the break, off the air, I shared with you that, many of us take the pill. I started off with people want to take the pill because we think that it gives us the authority to eat poorly if we're taking the pill. It's subconscious. It's what we've been indoctrinated to believe. And so the reality is that, and you had mentioned this so beautiful, if you don't have a pill to cure, which there's no pill that cures, quote unquote, then how would you live your life differently? If there weren't a pill for diabetes or high blood pressure, how would you change your life? And I think that's such a great question to ask ourselves as we work towards healing. So I had asked you the question about a probiotic pill. You said just goes right through you. Yogurt just goes right through you. Explain that a little bit so that we understand why we would even take a probiotic pill.
Well, it's not that they have no effect at all.
Okay.
I mean, for a person with an unhealthy microbiome, keep continuing to flush some more beneficial bacteria in can mitigate the damage a little bit. But it's not going to really undo or solve the problem of the leaky gut or inflammation unless you change what you eat. Because the primary microbiome features are based on how the bacteria live off of what you eat or don't digest.
Mm-hmm.
So you see, the probiotic can't make up for your bad diet, just like a high blood pressure pill or diabetic medication or cholesterol medication can't make up for your bad diet. It can only lower the risk a little bit. If you're not going to change your diet, your disease is still going to progress.
And the side effects. What about the side effects, Dr. Fuhrman, with the high blood pressure medication and the diabetes?
Well, most drugs are carcinogenic. They mostly increase risk of cancer. For example, a recent study showed women doubled that if they were on calcium channel blockers for blood pressure for 10 years or more, it doubled the risk of breast cancer. We're talking here that you don't get something for nothing when you get a prescription from a pharmaceutical company. You're playing Russian roulette with your life. Mm-hmm. So when you look at that, so there's no avenue to sustain excellent health if you're not willing to eat right. And besides medication being toxic and carcinogenic, they also intellectually and psychologically make it think it's okay to eat poorly. Now, I'm saying right now that the most proven methodology to live a long time and never have a heart attack or cancer or a stroke or get dementia is moderate caloric restriction in the environment of micronutrient excellence. We're talking about moderately lowering your caloric intake so you keep yourself slim your whole life. And I'm saying right now, when you eat the right foods, you automatically moderate the calories, because when you eat the right foods, it produces the right bacteria, and the right bacteria in your gut burn part of those calories so they can't be absorbed into the bloodstream. So the right bacteria help you moderate your caloric intake, because you feel like you're eating the food, your brain is shutting down the appestat, but your body's not getting all those calories because the beneficial bacteria are chewing them up and inhibiting the absorption of those calories.
Mm-hmm.
Likewise, when you eat beans, so when you eat beans, because the resistant starch means those calories that are resistant starch in the beans are broken down by bacteria, but the time the bacteria break down those starches into fatty acids, it's too far down in the digestive tract for the fatty acids to be absorbed. So the calories then of the fatty acids pass through into the toilet bowl. So when you eat beans, you get more fat in the toilet bowl. But it wasn't the fat from the beans, it was the carbohydrate from the beans that the bacteria turned into fat. And the fat that's thus produced has an anti-inflammatory effect on the wall of the colon, preventing colon cancer, preventing diverticulosis, preventing hemorrhoids and fissures, and making the stool pass more gently. So we have that, it's almost like a lubricant. The bacteria produce this natural lubricant which doesn't get absorbed. The 10% of the short-chain fatty acid called butyrate that is absorbed has anti-diabetic effects that lower your blood sugar. So it's all a natural system that works together. You know, just like when we eat all these onions, and we're talking about eating onions and garlic and leeks in our soup, they have these organosulfide compounds that promote the growth of a bacteria called Prevotella. And the Prevotella bacteria burns more calories. So it doesn't just burn the calories from the onions. If you had the quinoa or the sweet potato, the Prevotella from eating the onions are going to burn more of the calories from the sweet potato, so it's not all going to be absorbable. The same thing when you eat nuts or seeds, because nuts and seeds are rich in sterols and stanols that promote good bacteria, but the sterols and stanols also bind fat, and they carry fat out into the stool. So the fat that's in the nut and seed are not all biologically absorbed. So now what I've said is that you can caloric restrict naturally, because when you're eating nuts and seeds, you felt like you ate 200 calories in your brain. You stopped eating because you got that register of eating 200 calories, but then all those calories aren't coming in. They're passing through in the toilet bowl, just like when you ate the beans, all the calories pass through. And now when you eat the greens and the onions, they make a moderate glycemic load of foods, make those lower glycemic because they interfere with the absorption of glucose. So when you particularly eat these four foods, the two raw foods, the green leafy vegetables and the onions and garlic and leeks and scallion, particularly like, I want to put people with scallion and red onion and shallot on their salad, because those are the most powerful.
Yeah.
And then we combine that with the beans and what we're talking about. It actually, the fat that the body pulls out into the toilet bowl actually has fat traveling through the villi, from the bloodstream, through the villi, to the food chine, into the digestive tract. And now these sterols and these fibers and these bacteria pull out the fat into the stool. So it actually pulls the bad fat out of the body, like saturated fat and like oxidized LDL. So we produce more of the bad cholesterol in the toilet, and that's how one of the mechanisms via which it lowers cholesterol. So I'm saying so the foods you choose, the bacteria, the fibers, all these things have a whole cornucopia of beneficial effects on protecting your health.
Okay, so this is amazing. I mean, for people that are, wanting these quick fix diets and fads and all of that, if you were just to change and add greens, beans, onions, mushrooms, berries, seeds, your body will thank you. Now, with that in mind, Dr. Fuhrman, eating seasonally. I did a show with Andrea Beeman, and she had mentioned how important it is, because when we eat seasonally, different bacteria, good and bacteria, is brought into our body. What is your thought of that in less than a minute? A minute or less. Oh, did we lose Dr. Fuhrman? I think maybe you lost me. I don't know. Brian?
I'm suggesting that is not.
Brian, can you hear me? Yes. Okay, so you can hear me. So we just can't hear Dr. Fuhrman. Okay, so we're gonna continue. So here's the thing. There's so much that we don't know. And oh, there we go. There you are, Dr. Fuhrman. You just got back. We had lost you here. Our internet today is just going crazy, but we're going to figure it all out. We're going to go into a break, and we're going to continue our conversation with Dr. Joel Fuhrman. Please remember, we're giving away 100 best foods for health. Be the 9th caller or texter and win the book. And we're going to continue our conversation with Dr. Fuhrman when we return worldwide at whenyounneedafriend.com. We'll be right here waiting for you. It's a good thing that I have good bacteria that keeps me from pulling my hair when things like this happen, Dr. Fuhrman. So we lost you there for a while. So it was your internet.
What happened, Brian?
Yeah, we were having, I think this is an internet thing worldwide. I don't know, Brian, are you guys experiencing anything at the station?
No.
No. My goodness.
Mine seems okay here.
Yeah. Were you able to hear Dr. Fuhrman? Because I couldn't hear him.
No, I said his bandwidth was low.
Yes. So.
My bandwidth's slow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. So Dr. Fuhrman, okay. I don't know if we'll have time to talk about this on the air. But going with the analogy of the neighborhood, we have the good bacteria and the bad bacteria. So we have people that are really wonderful people that are living in our gut, and this is our microbiome, is our gut. And then we have some bad people that have moved in from St. Quentin, and they're now taking over. They've taken over the neighborhood, and they're making demands. So when you have bacteria that starts making demands and starts sending signals to the brain, how does that affect our choice, our addictions, our fears and depression? How does that affect the toxins that this bad bacteria is producing? How does it affect us with our brain?
Well, our brain becomes consumed with protecting the status quo. It protects the addiction. It protects the life of whatever is currently existing in the neighborhood.
Wow.
So it makes it more difficult for people to change. It makes it feel uncomfortable. And there's a cognitive dissonance going on, which means that intellectually, your body knows it's healthier to eat vegetables than eat ice cream and burgers and fries, but your body would rather block out those thoughts and just continue eating the burgers and fries and ice cream. So
wow.
Essentially, people lose the keys. Addictions make people lose the keys to the bank. What I mean that they no longer base their decision on what's best for their long-term life. They base their decision on what makes them feel good short-term. So feeling good short-term governs their actions, and they don't have the emotional intelligence to do things that are better for their long-term futures. We have this cognitive dissonance going on in the world today. We have the whole world is making decisions in our political system to benefit us short-term while we're destroying the planet for future generations. Not protecting the vehicle we have for our children and grandchildren. But it's the way the brain works. Because the more you're an addict, you can't be a long-term thinker. It makes you an addict, and addictive food makes you a short-term thinker to reinforce because the primitive part of the brain thinks short-term, and the cerebral brain thinks long-term, and it suppresses cerebral brain activity. We only think for short-term benefits. Make some money in the stock market today, destroy the environment, pollute the environment, cause global warming, do whatever you can to immediately benefit, but don't think what's going to benefit long-term. And the same thing, the body works for its health. We'll sacrifice our future with dementia based on the long-term thrill of eating some ice cream cones, you know what I mean, or whatever.
People refuse to believe that food could make us sick. People refuse to believe these things. So, we need to talk about that. That's brilliant, that the brain ignores. We know this. Okay, this is our last segment, Dr. Fuhrman, and we have plugged through with every single obstacle that has come our way. So
5959. Once again, here's Lillian.
So you heard it. 407-373-5959. The 10th caller, Dr. Fuhrman, hold up your book so that at least our people on YouTube land can see the video, the book. It is a beautiful book. It has 100 best foods for our health, and it has the reasons why, right, Dr. Fuhrman? The reasons why they're good.
Facts, there's some interesting information about the history of the foods and what part of the world they develop it, what makes it so special. Like Christopher Columbus said the papaya was the fruit of the angels and stuff like that. Hear about things about pineapple that, for example, it does not continue to sweeten after it's harvested. So you can't buy a green one and expect it to taste great. You want to get one that's kind of ripe before you can't ripen it at home because if it's really green, it's never going to get very sweet. So it gives you all the little tips and tricks in shopping for the food and why it makes it so protective against cancer. Like, for example, here's Leeks right here, and it says Leeks inhibit the growth of harmful microorganisms. The leeks kill the bad bacteria in your gut as they fuel the growth of the good bacteria. So they not only have the organosulfide compounds of both the good bacteria, they inhibit the proliferation of the bad bacteria, like the firmiculae.
Wow.
And they prevent the growth of the bad. They clean out the bad stuff. That's why that's why it's so important that people make the lunch the most important meal of the day, because they can get the salad with the scallion in there, and the onion, and they can get the soup with the beans and the cooked and the leeks and the mushrooms in the soup too. And the lunch is the meal when they're outside of the home. They're tempted by things out in the real world they shouldn't be eating anyway. If they eat a hearty lunch with a large salad that's big, with a nut and seed based dressing and a nice bowl of vegetable bean soup and a piece of fruit, it holds them through the whole day. They're not tempted to eat anything else, and they can wait till they get home to their safe haven of healthy food, and they're not tempted to eat unhealthy food. If the whole nation just changed their lunch, we'd see a tremendous drop in heart attack and cancer rates.
It's sad what we're doing to ourselves. People refuse to believe that the food they're eating is causing disease. Of course, that's not the only thing that causes disease. I'm not blind to the fact that there are childhood traumas, there's stress in the world, there's a belief in lack, the beliefs in our head, the conversations that we're having in our head. All of that becomes like the perfect storm that will create a symptom in our body. And those symptoms are called diseases. So if you have a symptom of high blood sugar levels, then we call that diabetes. We don't call that, hey, you're eating too many sweets, right? That's what we should call it.
Well, just eating too much food, or eating too much oil, or eating too much meat.
Yeah. Yes, exactly.
Bread and pasta and sweets you eat, those foods become more diabetic causing when we eat more fat and oil and meats in our diet too, because those foods, the oils, make us more insulin resistant. So then the bread becomes more glycemically unfavorable.
Mm-hmm.
So the opposite occurs too. When we eat more vegetables and beans, then we burn off the oxalates. So you don't get kidney stones from the meat. When we eat more, so everything works with each other. When we eat more beans now, our mango is less glycemic. When we eat more berries, the flavonoids affect the bacteria. So, everything affects everything else. Everything's interrelated. So that's right. And now scientists are finally recognizing that the G-bombs, that when you put a dietary portfolio together with all those foods in it, we get beneficial effects in reducing inflammation, reducing osteoarthritis, reducing risk of gout and kidney stones, as well as we protect the brain. Like there's an example of would be in Toronto. They're doing research on these portfolio of foods, that prevent cancer and the same ones that lower cholesterol. And I have the research office in Arizona, do a nutrition research office in Arizona, doing multiple studies, putting women and putting people on these collections of foods to show that they can reverse early stage breast cancer, but also that we found that the same foods made workers less depressed and more excited about their life, and it raised their emotions and increased their level of happiness and their level of creativity. So it's not just about cancer. And the other thing is that you were saying earlier about when you eat right, it makes you more enthusiastic and more creative and more happy. Mm-hmm. And people think they're giving up some pleasure. It's actually been shown to enhance the pleasure in life, make you enjoy eating more, not enjoy eating less. Your taste gets better, your smell improves, and you start to feel better about your life.
Interesting. While we were on the break, and for those of you can go to whenyouneedafriend.com and check it out in the YouTube video later. You were saying, because I was talking about how the bad bacteria starts making demands, and the toxins that, because a bacteria is just like a little human. It eats, it sleeps, it poops, it procreates. And so it's like a little human, and in your gut, it's like a little world in your gut. So when you have the good bacteria and the bad bacteria, well, they both produce waste. They both produce toxins. And so when you have the bad bacteria, those toxins, everything starts making demands on the brain. And Dr. Fuhrman said that what happens and how the brain reacts to those demands is the brain protects the addicted mind, or the brain protects the addiction. And so it's so important that we override and use logic and say, I know that these foods are going to make us feel better. So therefore, I am going to make the decision to regulate and be the president or the governor or the emperor of my body, controlling my brain and acting upon what I know is best. And then the body will start feeling better. And then it's like we get in this rut where we feel depressed, but we're eating the foods that cause more depression.
Right,
So,
but the bacteria and the toxins and the food lowers intelligence too. The high sugar, high meat diet, it decreases people's intelligence and creativity. So they're less open to using logic and science as a means of coming to conclusions and judgments. Now they're biased based on what feeds their immediate short-term self-interest and addictions first.
yes.
So because the fast food diet lowers intelligence and creativity and the abilities of logical thinking, it makes it more difficult for people to change their behavior.
So we've just got to know this, and we need to take action. We need to be our own advocate, our own MD, our own medical detective by giving us the fuel. Now, earlier segment, and I don't know if you responded to this or not because we were getting close to the end, but I had asked about seasonal eating and eating seasonally. How does that affect our microbiome and the bacteria?
Right, and I said that concept is bogus.
It is?
It's bogus because one of the most beautiful opportunities we have to live past 100 years old today is the fact that we no longer have to eat seasonally. Because we're not like living just on some nuts in the wintertime and some grains we stored that are rotten. We can actually get fresh greens in the winter, and we can actually eat frozen blueberries that if we were eating seasonally here in New Jersey, I wouldn't be eating blueberries in the wintertime, and I wouldn't be eating fresh leafy greens. The fact that we can still include these foods in our diet year-round enables us to live past 100, whereas years ago and centuries ago, people couldn't live as long. So we have a unique opportunity in human history where we can live to be greater than 100 years old if we take advantage of the foods that are available to us all year round. So that we can freeze berries and things. So this idea coming from, ancient Asian and macrobiotic ideas, like the hot foods, the cold foods. In the wintertime, you eat the hot foods. In the summertime, you eat the cold foods. There's no science to bear out that enhances longevity or reduces health. Matter of fact, we see the opposite. When we give people vegetables in the wintertime and berries, it improves their health and the resistance to infection during the wintertime. When they can eat summer foods in the wintertime, the risk of getting flu and infection goes down because they're exposed to nutrients they would have gotten mostly in the summer. So it's just another fad, I think.
You think? Because this is like ancient history, and so
we didn't have refrigerators and jet planes back then. A lot of things we're thinking that they pass down these ideas that are not really held up to scientific scrutiny.
Well, I tell you what, we've got to dive into this conversation even more. And so I want to encourage you to be the 9th caller or texter, 407-373-5959, to win Dr. Fuhrman's book called 100 Best Foods for Health, which I know I'm getting a copy of. And for those of you who would like a copy, 9th caller or texter, 407-373-5959. Dr. Fuhrman, is always so wonderful to have you on the show. I learned so much. I'm excited about leeks because now I have some in my garden and I've just been craving it. I've been craving it. And so maybe I'm getting rid of this bad bacteria. So thank you so much for helping me balance my body.
You're welcome.
And to you, my listening friend, always remember, you're in choice. Let's make the best choices for us. And I'll be right here waiting for you. Well, worldwide at whenyouneedafriend.com. This is Lillian McDermott wishing you love, peace, joy, and unexpected abundance. Make it the best day ever. Dr. Fuhrman, I tell you what, now I know why I've been craving leeks. I think I have a little bacteria in my tummy. I think there's a worm or something. Someone told me that you can, let me say goodbye. Let me say goodbye to everybody. And thank you so much, Dr. Fuhrman. And thank you for watching. I look forward to our next conversation. Boy, we made it through, Dr. Fuhrman. Can you believe that?
That's great. It's funny because I was in my